I was saying that the men that are involved that we've seen in the news, let's take Harvey Weinstein. He isn't necessarily evil. He was raised by the patriarchy and followed impulses like a donkey, like an ass, and without much consequence until now. He didn't necessarily think that he is actually better than the other sex, nor wish them harm. He followed impulses because of how he was molded by the patriarchy. I'm not saying that we need to just let Harvey Weinstein roam the streets, take showers, and masturbate in office plants. Something needs to be done about Harvey Weinstein, just like about all the other men. But should we hate him for it and consider him evil? Should we consider him sexist? I don't know enough about Harvey Weinstein to say definitively. But based on what I do know, I want to say that not necessarily. So the example that I was discussing with Mirage, this is an issue that I often take with the label of racist and sexist. There are people who are racist and sexist. There are lots of them. But there are certain behaviors that are not necessarily indicative of racism or sexism. I'm Eris. This is Daniel. Daniel and I are identical, as you can see. The only difference is, which you cannot perceive here, is that he is much shorter than I am. So I'm angry at him for one reason or another, and I want to insult him. What my brain is going to do is search for insults. And what are insults? Well, he is shorter than I am, and that is typically seen as a weakness by society of men. The world typically sees short men as being inferior. So if I'm angry at him, I want to insult him, I'm going to point out a quality of his that A, is different from mine, and B, is something that is seen down on. So, oh, you stupid short asshole. Now, asshole is a generic term.
I'm gonna go get a haircut real quick.
Stupid
Right back.
is often used generically. But again, that's another word that is seen as a negative thing. The real thing that what I really said to really get him, because if I said you stupid asshole, it wouldn't have gotten him as much. What I said was you're short. And as you saw, he was offended. So that's when we're in conflict. Two human beings, forget all the details about the human beings. When people are in conflict, they search for these kinds of words. These kind of descriptors, qualifiers, that are typically seen as not cool. Now, hopefully I've been able to do some kind of filter here, and he is now darker than I am. So Daniel, I'm mad at him. You stupid darky. You nigga. I couldn't do the ER on my channel. You black motherfucker. In much of Western Europe, people of African heritage are seen, at least historically, but still present day, as being in some way inferior. So now I've called out a quality of his inferior, right? If I said to him, you chocolate-skinned asshole. No, that has a positive connotation. Ooh, that sweet chocolate skin. Like my friend Richard. Take a look at him. I can't make fun of him by calling him chocolate-skinned, because everybody loves chocolate. But I can make fun of him by calling him dark. Even if I'm using words that are very similar, of course, one has a negative connotation, one doesn't. Okay. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily racist or complexist, referring to complexion. It means that I was searching for an insult and used what society sees as... Are you still talking to me, or I'm gonna go. Resume. It's negative to offend him. Fat, ugly, short, black, dark, pale. These are words that we use to insult, but are not necessarily indications of an ism. What I want to say is that a man who acts on his impulse to masturbate in front of a woman who did not ask for that was being an asshole to another person, quite possibly. Just like if I insult Daniel by saying you queer, I am just being an asshole to another person without actually hating his demographic. In the case of Harvey Weinstein, he may have just been being an asshole to another person without thinking himself better than that person's demographic. And the patriarchy is ultimately to blame because it taught Harvey, hey, it's okay to act on your impulse. Also, the patriarchy told him, ignore the fact that I am socializing women to not reject you clearly or directly. Ignore that fact and assume that women know and are comfortable rejecting their boss, for instance. So Harvey was like, yeah, this is my equal, just another woman. She'll tell me no. You know, I'm being a human. I'm just doing my thing. She's doing her thing. But no, actually, the system that men have created has made it such that we don't have the freedom to act on our impulse and to trust that any bad behavior will be curbed. So we need to think of that ourselves and empower the women around us, of course, as they are empowering themselves. The point is that he was being an asshole to another person without realizing that the system from which he has profited makes it an uneven power dynamic between him and that other person, which means to act on his every impulse is a luxury that he has that she doesn't. And not only that, she has the disadvantage of not ever having really been trained to stop him. Of course, I cannot speak to whether Harvey Weinstein is sexist. I'm saying based on what I have seen in the news, he might not be sexist, he might just be an asshole. And what we need is to change the patriarchy, which creates and permits this kind of bullshit. Is that clear? Subscribe.